The chamber of the Galactic Council was a place of glittering light and cold silence. Thousands of alien leaders sat in their floating seats, their jeweled robes glowing under the crystalline ceiling. The air itself seemed heavy with judgment. In the center, a single human stood tall, his suit plain compared to the shining garments around him, but his eyes carried the weight of Earth's future. He raised his voice, steady but strong. "We ask for peace, we ask for respect. Humanity wishes only to trade, to grow, and to live as equals." His words echoed in the hall. But the reaction was not kindness, it was laughter. One alien with scales of gold leaned forward, his mouth curling in a mocking smile. "Peace? You are children playing with sticks while we hold the stars. Earth is nothing but a small rock. You dare stand here and ask for equality?" His voice dripped with disdain. The human did not flinch. He had expected this, still he tried once more. "If you continue this war, if you press against our borders, you will regret it. Humanity has endured much. Do not mistake patience for weakness." The council burst into a storm of sound. Some laughed, some hissed, some pounded their claws on their seats. To them the words of the human were empty threats, a desperate attempt to sound strong. Another alien, tall and crowned with silver horns, waved a dismissive hand. "Enough of this game, let them speak no more. Humanity will bend or humanity will burn. Their fleets are few, their weapons outdated. We hold the power." The human's jaw tightened. His fists curled at his side. He looked at the endless sea of alien faces. So proud, so certain, so blind, he spoke once more, his voice lower now, carrying a sharp edge. "You will remember this day. You will remember the day you laughed. When the stars tremble, it will not be because of your armies, but because of ours." The silence that followed was short, broken again by mocking laughter. But for the first time, a shadow of unease flickered across some alien eyes. Not all of them were convinced Earth was weak. Not all of them found his words amusing. The human turned and walked out of the chamber, his footsteps slow, deliberate. The doors closed behind him with a heavy clang. The council returned to its debates, mocking the arrogance of the young species. But in hidden corners of the galaxy, something far more dangerous stirred. Far from the glittering halls in the deep black of space, massive shapes waited in silence. Titan-class warships rested in shadowed docks carved into asteroids, their hulls black as midnight, their cannons the size of towers, their engines silent but ready. They had been built in secret, hidden from alien eyes. Humanity had never been idle. Humanity had never been weak. They had simply waited. On the flagship, the commander stood at the viewing window, watching stars burn cold and distant. A message blinked on his console, a single line sent from the ambassador. The words were simple. "Diplomacy has ended." The commander read the message and gave the order. His voice calm, steady. "Prepare the fleet. Raise the banners of Earth. Let the galaxy know we are coming." Engines that had been silent for decades roared to life. Fire spilled from the backs of warships. Rail cannons locked into place, plasma lances hummed. Missile bays opened like the jaws of predators. Thousands of ships aligned in perfect formation, each one bristling with weapons powerful enough to tear apart worlds. On alien worlds across the stars, merchants and soldiers went about their daily lives, laughing at the thought of humans daring to challenge them. They did not know what was coming. They did not know that the sky itself would soon darken with Terran steel. Back in the council chamber, an uneasy silence had fallen once more. Some alien leaders whispered that perhaps the humans' warning had not been empty. Others dismissed it as fear. But deep inside, a shadow of doubt spread. The human ambassador returned to his small shuttle, leaving the glittering city world behind. He sat in the dark cabin, staring out at the endless void. He whispered quietly to himself. "They think us weak, they think us blind, but soon they will see the truth." The stars around him glittered cold and bright. But for the first time, the galaxy would learn that humanity was not a child among giants. Humanity was the storm waiting beyond the horizon, and when it arrived, every world would tremble. The engines of the shuttle burned as it returned to Terran space, carrying the final words of peace that had been rejected, carrying the message that would set fire to the stars. Humanity's patience had ended. Diplomacy had ended. Now came the fleet, and with it the galaxy's first taste of fear. Far away from the glittering halls of the council, the truth of humanity's strength rested in silence, hidden from every alien eye. The official reports that reached alien empires painted Earth as small and harmless. The spies spoke of a handful of cruisers, a few frigates, and nothing more. But those spies had only seen what humans allowed them to see. What lay hidden was a shadow so vast, that it could swallow entire sectors. In the asteroid belts near Sol, deep tunnels cut into rock for hundreds of kilometers, and inside those tunnels giant warships slept. Their black hulls shimmered faintly with shield plating. Their cannons were rows of steel mountains, each one silent, each one waiting for the word. Entire Titan-class warships sat with their lights dark, their reactors cold, but their weapons ready to awaken. The silence of those docks was broken only by the quiet hum of human engineers, moving like shadows between titanic machines. Men and women in plain uniforms checked systems, fueled reactors, and whispered the same thought. Soon the galaxy will see. The commander of the fleet stood aboard the flagship Eternal Resolve, his hands resting on the railing as he looked out at the endless rows of ships. The dreadnought alone stretched for kilometers, bristling with weapons powerful enough to split moons, but beyond it were thousands more carriers, destroyers, stealth corvettes, and siege frigates, all hidden, all silent. On his console the message still glowed, sent by the ambassador who had stood before the council. Diplomacy has ended. Those words were enough. No more was needed. The commander turned to his officers, their faces pale with both fear and pride. We rise from the shadows today. For years we built. For years we waited. They think us weak, but they will learn the truth. Awaken the fleet. Sirens rang through the docks. Hatches opened. Engineers ran to their stations. Reactors that had been sleeping for decades groaned alive. A deep rumble spread through the asteroid belt, and soon the entire sector shook with the awakening of humanity's armada. One by one, the ships came alive, black hulls glowing with blue fire, plasma lances humming with deadly energy, missile bays opening like steel jaws. Formations shifted in the dark void, and in silence they began to assemble line after line, row after row, a formation of such precision that even alien fleets could not match it. From orbit of Mars, civilian transports watched in awe as the hidden ships emerged from tunnels and caves. Children pressed their faces to glass windows, eyes wide. Are those ours? They whispered, all of them? And their parents could only nod, tears in their eyes. Humanity had never been so united on Earth itself. The skies were alive with movement. War factories released new squadrons of starfighters. Swarms of sleek black interceptors cut through the atmosphere, heading toward the rally points across the oceans. Giant sea docks raised warships into the sky, massive carriers that could hold entire cities inside their hulls. Everything humanity had built in secret was no longer secret. The message spread fast across human worlds. The fleet has awakened, and people cheered. Banners waved and voices rose in unison, not in fear but in pride. Humanity would not bow. Meanwhile, in alien space, the first whispers began to spread. Traders crossing Terran borders vanished without trace. Patrol cruisers sent by arrogant empires did not return. Distress signals were short, filled with static and terror. Ships shredded before they could even send full messages. The aliens who laughed at Earth now sent urgent reports. Something stirs in Terran space. Something vast, but their leaders dismissed it as lies. Back in the shadow of Sol, the commander of the Eternal Resolve gave the final order, form the Armada, and so it was. Across the system, thousands of ships aligned, dreadnoughts at the center, carriers stretching their wings, destroyers and corvettes weaving into protective screens. The sheer number darkened the stars, a wall of steel and fire that seemed endless. A young officer on the bridge whispered as he looked out the window. "Sir, they will see this, they will fear this." The commander only nodded, his eyes hard. "Let them see, let them fear. For too long they thought us children. Now they will learn we are wolves." The fleet held its position, waiting only for the word to strike. But even in silence, the galaxy trembled. Alien long-range sensors began to catch faint signatures. Strange spikes in energy. Shadows too large to be explained. Fleets too vast to be imagined. Whispers grew into panic, and the Council, still mocking Earth, began to hear the first true notes of fear in their own halls. On the bridge of the Eternal Resolve, the commander watched the stars as the fleet aligned. The ambassador's words echoed in his mind. "You will remember this day," and he knew the galaxy would. For what rose from the shadows was not a small world's navy, but an armada built to shake the heavens. Humanity's patience was gone. Its silence was broken. Its warships no longer hidden. Across the galaxy, rulers would soon wake from their dreams of power, only to find the nightmare of Terran steel waiting above their skies. And in that moment, the galaxy would truly tremble. The first clash came not with words but with fire. Along the edge of Terran space, an alien flotilla drifted with arrogance. Dozens of cruisers painted in the colors of the Vrath Empire, their commanders laughing as they crossed into human territory without warning. They believed it would be a quick show of dominance, a reminder that Earth was nothing more than a small upstart. The lead alien captain, his 4 eyes glowing red, gave the order, "Transmit to the humans. Tell them to kneel or we will burn their stations." His crew obeyed. Their signal shot across the void, but it reached nothing. There was no answer, no reply, only silence. Then the silence broke, not with a voice but with movement. Shadows slipped from the dark side of an asteroid field. Sleek black ships, smaller than the alien cruisers but faster, sharper and deadlier. They moved like hunters, every angle precise. Every line invisible until it was too late. They were Terran destroyers. The alien sensors caught the movement too late. Warnings screamed across their bridges. But the humans had already fired. Rail cannons lit the void with blinding streaks of tungsten slugs, each one traveling at a fraction of light speed. The first alien cruiser shattered in half before it even raised shields. A second erupted in a sphere of flame. Panic spread through the alien fleet. Orders screamed across channels. Raise shields, return fire, push them back. But their formation broke apart. The humans did not fight as the aliens expected. They did not charge wildly. They moved with flawless precision, each destroyer striking like a blade, disappearing, and striking again from a new angle. In less than 5 minutes, 7 alien cruisers were gone, wreckage spinning into the void. Their crews lost to the darkness. The survivors tried to regroup, but the humans pressed harder. Missile bays opened. Swarms of guided warheads streaked across the stars, each one finding its target with deadly accuracy. The alien captain roared in rage, his claws tearing at the console. How? How can they strike like this? Their ships are supposed to be weak. But even as he shouted, his vessel shuddered, alarm screamed, and a plasma lance from a Terran frigate pierced through his bridge, silencing him forever. The battle ended as quickly as it began. The once proud Vrath flotilla reduced to debris and burning wrecks. Only a handful of escape pods fled into the dark, carrying terrified survivors. Those survivors would spread the story across the stars, their voices trembling as they spoke. The humans are not weak, they are predators, far from the battlefield. In hidden halls of the Council, rumors spread like wildfire. The Vrath Empire demanded answers, demanded proof. But the images were clear, black Terran ships cutting through fleets like blades through cloth. The council chamber that once echoed with laughter, now echoed with fear. Back aboard the Eternal Resolve, the commander listened to the battle report, his officers standing stiff with pride. Minimal losses, enemy fleet destroyed. Survivors fled, one of them said. The commander nodded slowly, his face calm, his voice steady. Good, let them flee. Let them tell the story. The galaxy must hear. The galaxy must fear. The strategy was not only to win, but to be seen. To carve terror into the hearts of empires, humanity had waited in silence for too long. Now every strike was both victory and message, a warning carved in fire on Earth. News of the battle spread across every city. People cheered, banners waved, and children shouted in the streets, "We are strong. We are free." For the first time in centuries, humanity stood united, not as fractured nations, but as one world, one fleet, one people. In alien space, however, the story spread with horror. Merchants whispered of human destroyers that appeared from the dark and vanished before retaliation. Soldiers spoke of rail cannons that tore ships apart in seconds. Rulers sat in their palaces listening to reports that turned their blood cold. Some still tried to deny it, calling it chance, calling it trickery, but deep down they all felt the same truth. The balance of power had shifted. The species once mocked as primitive had revealed claws sharper than any. The commander of the Eternal Resolve stood at the viewing window, watching the stars burn faintly in the distance. His voice was quiet but carried the weight of iron. This was only the beginning. They thought us weak, they thought us blind. But today they saw the truth. Tomorrow they will see the Armada. And so the first strike of humanity echoed across the galaxy, a warning that the age of Terran silence was over. Diplomacy had ended, patience had ended. Now came the fleet, and with it, the trembling of stars. The council chamber, once filled with laughter at Earth's expense, was now wrapped in a heavy silence. Reports from the Vrath border hung in the air like smoke. The images were undeniable. Burning wrecks of cruisers, shredded fleets, and human destroyers moving like predators through the dark. Alien leaders shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Some hissed in anger, others whispered in fear. A horned delegate slammed his claw against the table. They trick us, this is no true power, only a raid, only a trap. Yet his voice cracked with unease, for deep inside even he felt the truth. The humans had shown only a fraction of what they held. Across the chamber, another voice rose, soft but sharp. If they can crush a Wrath flotilla in minutes, what else are they hiding? The words sent ripples through the gathered rulers. For once, no one laughed while the council argued. While empires scrambled to understand, humanity moved. In the dark corridors of space, the Armada awakened. Not one fleet, but many. Each hidden in caverns behind moons, deep inside asteroid belts. Thousands of ships rising in silence. Black hulls catching starlight like shadows of steel. Carriers opened their vast bays, unleashing swarms of starfighters that cut across the void in disciplined lines. Dreadnoughts rolled from their hidden docks, their cannons glowing faintly as they charged. Destroyers and frigates slipped into precise formations. Every movement timed, every angle perfect from afar. Sensors caught the first hints. Strange anomalies on long-range scans, spikes of energy, shadows too vast to belong to small patrols. Alien watchers rubbed their eyes, convinced their machines were broken. But the data remained, a fleet was forming, one larger than any in living memory. On the bridge of the Eternal Resolve, the commander stood silent, his officers reporting status one by one.
Third carrier wing ready. Destroyer line Alpha aligned.
Titan-class warships primed, each voice steady. Filled with pride, the commander gave a single nod. Form the Armada. Let the galaxy see what we have hidden. And so it began. Ships that had been scattered across the Sol system converged. From Jupiter's moons, from Saturn's rings, from Mars' orbit they came, thousands upon thousands, until the stars themselves seemed to vanish behind Terran steel. A young ensign looked out the viewing window, her voice trembling. "Sir, it looks like we're blotting out the sun," the commander answered. "Good. Let the galaxy see their sky grow dark." As the Armada took shape, messages spread across human colonies. The fleet has risen. People poured into streets. Screens showed the endless rows of Terran ships stretching across the void. Cheers rose from cities, tears from old veterans who never thought they would live to see humanity united under one banner. But in alien space, those same images carried terror. Smugglers carried tales of black dreadnoughts larger than cities, of carriers that launched swarms like locusts, of weapons bright enough to carve planets. Rulers received the reports and refused to believe them. Yet the evidence grew, and with it fear. The council met again, their voices frantic. "We must form a coalition. We must strike before it is too late," cried one. But another spat back, "Too late? It is already too late. They were never weak. They were only waiting." In a hidden chamber far from the council, the spies who had once reported Earth as harmless now bowed their heads in shame. Their lies had been clever, but humanity's deception had been greater. No empire had ever imagined a species could hide such a force. Not for years, not for decades, back on the Eternal Resolve. The commander watched the Armada fall into its final formation. Dreadnoughts at the center, carriers on the flanks, destroyers and frigates forming the shield wall, thousands of fighters buzzing between them like sparks of fire. The sight was beyond belief. He raised his hand, his voice carrying through the command channels. "This is the day the galaxy learns no longer will humanity bow. No longer will they laugh. From this day forward, we are the storm that will shake the stars." The Armada stretched across the void, a wall of light and shadow, so vast that no sensor could measure its end. Alien scouts watching from the edge of Terran space trembled as they sent their reports, their voices broken. It is not one fleet. It is all their fleets, united, endless, unstoppable. And across the galaxy, rulers sat in silence as the truth reached them. They had mocked Earth, dismissed them as children. Now they realized the children had grown teeth sharp enough to devour empires. The council chamber grew quiet once more. No laughter, no mockery, only the sound of fear pressing against the walls. For the galaxy had finally understood. The Armada had awakened, and when it moved, the stars themselves would tremble. The void was quiet, but every captain in the galaxy felt the shift. The moment when humanity revealed its heart. At the center of the Armada drifted a ship so vast that even seasoned admirals whispered in awe. The Titan-class dreadnought Eternal Resolve, a warship 3 kilometers long, its silhouette like a floating continent of steel, its weapons bristling from every surface. Alien spies had spoken of battleships, of cruisers, but nothing in their reports matched the giant now moving across the stars. Its armor plates glowed faint blue from layered shields. Its spinal cannon stretched the length of its hull, a weapon designed not to wound fleets but to shatter worlds. The Eternal Resolve was not a ship, it was a declaration. On its bridge, the commander stood with his hands clasped behind his back. Officers lined the consoles, their voices reporting status. Main reactor stable, shields at full power, plasma lances charged, missile silos primed. Their tones carried both pride and fear, for none of them had ever seen their dreadnought awaken in full until now. Across Terran space, other Titan-class ships emerged, each a legend forged in secret. Names like Iron Horizon, Vigilant Spear, and Silent Thunder filled the channels, each one capable of changing the tide of war alone. Together they were an unstoppable wall of destruction. The galaxy had known empires with mighty fleets, but never before had it seen a single world-birth warships to rival gods. Scouts from the Arak Dominion caught the first images, their tiny corvettes drifting at the edge of Terran space. One pilot whispered into his recorder, his voice trembling, "The humans, they have cities that fly, entire cities of guns." He turned his craft and fled, his transmission racing back to his empire, a message of terror that would not be ignored. The council gathered again, their voices filled with panic. They were supposed to be small. They were supposed to be weak. How could they build this? One shouted, another hissed, "It is impossible." No species builds dreadnoughts in secret. But the evidence was undeniable. The galaxy watched the black giants move into formation. Back aboard the Eternal Resolve, the commander gave his first true order of war. Advance! Engines roared across the armada. Dreadnoughts surged forward like mountains carried by fire, their escorts weaving around them, and the galaxy's borders began to quake. The first target was not chosen at random. It was the fortress world of Dalor, a proud jewel of the Vrath Empire. Its orbit ringed with defense stations, its skies filled with fleets, its people convinced no invader could ever breach it. The humans came anyway. The Eternal Resolve led the charge. Alien commanders watched in disbelief as the Titan crossed into their space without hesitation. Their defense fleets moved to intercept, hundreds of cruisers firing plasma beams and torpedoes. The void lit up with fire, but when the Eternal Resolve fired back, the galaxy learned what it meant to face a Titan. Its spinal railgun thundered, launching a slug the size of a skyscraper at a fraction of light speed. One alien battleship vanished in a flash, torn into molten fragments before its shields even registered the impact. The shockwave rippled through the formation. Plasma lances cut across the battlefield, spearing through ships like knives through paper. Missile storms poured from Terran carriers, guided by AI so precise that no alien countermeasure stopped them. Within minutes, the proud Vrath defense fleet was a graveyard. On the surface of Dalor, civilians looked up as the sky burned red. Massive explosions cracked across the horizon, and then the shadow of the Eternal Resolve eclipsed their sun, its vast hull blocking the light. The people fell silent, fear wrapping every heart. The alien governor screamed for reinforcements, his voice shaking. "It cannot be destroyed. It cannot be fought. It is too large, too powerful." But no help came. The Vrath fleet had been broken. The commander's voice carried through Terran channels. "Calm and steady. Do not bombard the world. They will surrender." And so the Terran armada held its fire, their ships hovering above, waiting, the silence more terrifying than destruction itself. Within hours, Dalor's leaders bent the knee. Their pride gone, their banners torn down, the first jewel of the Vrath Empire fell without Terran boots ever touching its soil. Across the galaxy, the story spread like fire, of the Titan that swallowed fleets, of the world that surrendered under its shadow. Some refused to believe, calling it a myth, a tale spun by frightened survivors, but others knew the truth, and their voices carried the warning. The humans bring giants, and the giants bring the end. Back on the Eternal Resolve, the commander stood at the window, his gaze hard. "They mocked us as children, now they will kneel." One by one, his officers bowed their heads. The armada moved again, its war engines burning brighter. The galaxy trembled not at the thought of war, but at the sight of Terran Titans, for in the dark void, humanity had revealed its sharpest teeth and nothing would ever be the same. The fall of Dalor shook the galaxy like thunder, yet the Vrath Empire refused to bow. They still clung to pride, still clung to the belief that their ultimate weapon would crush humanity. In secret, they summoned their greatest ship, the Ascendant Spear, a planet killer so vast it could burn continents in a single volley. For centuries it had been their symbol of invincibility, and now it moved toward Terran space, Its alien crew certain no species could withstand its fire, the council whispered with hope. The spear will end them. The spear has never lost. But behind their words was desperation. They needed humanity to fall, or else every empire would live under Terran shadow. In the void near the edge of the Vrath core, the Armada waited, the eternal resolve at its heart. The commander studied the reports, his officers silent. The ascendant spear approaches, one finally said. Her voice tight, the commander nodded. Then today, the galaxy will learn which Titan stands tallest. The alien supership arrived like a black sun, its hull 10 kilometers long, covered in glowing glyphs of ancient power. Its energy core pulsed like a living heart. Entire fleets escorted it, but even they seemed small beside its colossal frame. Across alien channels, voices rose in triumph. The humans will break. No fleet can face the spear. Yet on the bridge of the eternal resolve, there was no fear, only focus. The battle began with fire brighter than stars. The ascendant spear unleashed its main weapon, a beam of searing energy that cut across space, vaporizing asteroids in its path. Dozens of Terran ships were lost in that single strike, their wreckage scattering into the void. Alien commanders cheered, convinced the end was near, but the humans did not retreat. Destroyers surged forward, weaving between beams. Frigates unleashed storms of missiles. Fighters swarmed like wasps around the giant, striking at its shield nodes, every shot carefully planned not to destroy at once, but to bleed the spear piece by piece. The eternal resolve entered the fray. Its massive railgun charged, the commander's voice steady. Fire! The slug tore through the void. Smashing against the spear's shields, the impact shook the alien vessel. Its escorts wavered, but the supership endured, its core pulsing brighter with rage. Hours stretched as the battle raged. Alien fleets poured fire into the Terran lines, but the humans fought with precision. Every maneuver coordinated, every strike aimed at weak points. Ships sacrificed themselves not in panic, but with purpose, buying time, creating openings. Then came the moment. Human fighters dove into the spear's trench-like hull, targeting shield relays buried deep within. Dozens were lost, but a handful made it through. Plasma charges detonated, and with a thunderous shock, a section of the supership's shields collapsed. Now, the commander ordered. The Eternal Resolve and its sister Titans unleashed everything. Rail slugs, plasma lances, missile storms. The void lit up in waves of destruction. The ascendant spear shuddered, its escorts fled, its once unstoppable form cracking under the storm. On the alien bridge, their admiral screamed, "Impossible! No one can breach the spear." But his words were drowned by alarms as fire consumed the decks. The final blow came from the Eternal Resolve's spinal cannon, a slug tearing through the spear's heart. Its glowing core ruptured, the explosion brighter than a sun. Shockwaves rippled across the battlefield. Alien fleets scattered, their faith shattered. The spear was gone. Silence followed, heavy and absolute, across the galaxy. The myth of alien invincibility crumbled. If the spear could fall, anything could fall on the Terran flagship. The commander stood firm, his voice low. They thought it could not be destroyed, yet here we stand. And there it burns. His officers bowed their heads, the Armada's banners glowing against the darkness. News of the battle raced across the stars. Worlds once loyal to the Vrath began to doubt. Whispers spread through palaces and barracks alike. The humans defeated the spear. The humans cannot be stopped. In the council chamber, the silence was thick with terror. No one laughed now. No one mocked, their eyes hollow as they realized the truth. The age of alien dominance was ending. Back aboard the Eternal Resolve, the commander looked into the void, the wreckage of the spear drifting like a tomb. He spoke quietly. The galaxy trembled when we awoke, but now it will kneel, one empire at a time. And so the greatest weapon of the old order was gone. Burned away by Terran steel and Terran will, the galaxy had no shield left, no myth to cling to. All that remained was fear, and the endless shadow of the human armada moving ever forward. The wreckage of the ascendant spear drifted through the void like a broken monument, its shattered hull glowing faintly as fires burned out. Across the galaxy the images spread. Fleets that once believed themselves untouchable now stared at the ruins in disbelief. The weapon that had been called invincible was gone. Destroyed by human hands on alien worlds, panic swept like wildfire. Markets collapsed. Soldiers deserted. Governors called for emergency councils. The people whispered a single name with trembling voices. Humans, no longer a joke, no longer a child among giants. But the storm itself, the Armada pressed forward. Not slowly, not cautiously, but with purpose. One system after another fell. Human fleets appeared over alien skies, and entire worlds surrendered before a single shot was fired. Above their capitals, Terran dreadnoughts hovered like mountains of steel, their shadows blotting out suns on the world of Zarek. The governor watched from his palace as thousands of citizens knelt in the streets, not to him but to the Terran flag projected above. "Do not resist, the humans are coming." The words had spread across every channel.
Carried in the voices of survivors, the council met once more.
Desperation in every glance. We must unite. "We must strike together," cried one. But another slammed his claws down. "Unite? Against this? They are not a fleet. They are a force of nature." Silence followed, for none could argue. Back on the eternal resolve, the commander studied the reports. His officers stood at attention. 3 more systems surrendered without resistance, one reported. "Their fleet stood down the moment we arrived." The commander's gaze hardened. "Good. Fear is faster than fire. Let them tremble. Let them bow." The Armada moved like a tide. Unstoppable alien admirals tried to regroup, tried to hold their borders. But every encounter ended the same. Rail cannons tore through formations, plasma lances split cruisers in half. Missile storms swallowed entire fleets, and at the center of it all, the Titans advanced silent and relentless. In the city of Varnus, a jewel of the Yoro Dominion, citizens gathered in terror as the sky darkened. Not with clouds, but with ships. The Iron Horizon and its escorts appeared above, their cannons glowing faintly. "Ready," the governor called his council, his voice shaking. "Do we fight?" But the answer came not from his advisors, but from the people outside, shouting in unison, "Surrender, surrender." We cannot face them, and so banners fell one by one. Empires that had stood for millennia bent under the shadow of Terran steel. Still, not all gave up. Some voices called for resistance. Some swore they would never kneel. Yet even their words were hollow, for they had seen the fate of the spear. They had seen worlds surrender without a fight. Their courage was ash, their hope a memory, the council chambers. Once filled with arrogance, now felt like a tomb. Alien rulers sat silent, their eyes wide with fear. One finally whispered what all of them already knew. "We laughed when they spoke, we mocked when they warned. But now we are the ones who tremble, on the bridge of the eternal resolve." The commander looked out at the endless stars, his voice calm. "Every world we take, every fleet we break brings us closer to peace. Not the peace of their council, but the peace of Terran order." His officers nodded. The Armada surged onward. News spread across human colonies as well, and the people cheered, their fleets unstoppable, their enemies humbled. Earth had been mocked, but now Earth stood as master of the stars. Children on Luna whispered proudly, "The galaxy fears us." Veterans raised their glasses. "We warned them," and families gathered to watch broadcasts of alien rulers bending the knee, tears in their eyes as they realized humanity had risen higher than anyone ever dreamed. But for the aliens, it was not pride, it was terror. Across palace halls and military outposts, the same words echoed again and again. "Do not resist, the humans are coming." And so the galaxy trembled, not just from the thunder of guns, not just from the shadows of dreadnoughts, but from the realization that the age of alien empires was over. A new power had risen, and it came not with words, but with fleets that blotted out suns. The Armada hung in the dark, endless, united, unstoppable, and the galaxy bowed, trembling before the storm called humanity. The galaxy was no longer the same. The empires that once laughed at humanity now sat in silence, their fleets broken, their pride shattered, their people trembling. Wherever the Terran Armada went, the sky grew dark, and with that shadow came surrender. World after world lowered its banners. Governors bent the knee, and entire armies laid down their weapons without a fight. The council that had mocked Earth gathered again, but now their jeweled robes hung heavy with shame, their eyes hollow with fear. The great chamber that once rang with mocking laughter was quiet as a tomb. Finally, one elder rose, his voice shaking. "We cannot win. We cannot fight. If we resist, we will all burn." The others said nothing, because deep in their hearts they knew he spoke the truth. Across the void, aboard the Eternal Resolve, the commander stood at the great viewing window. Thousands of Terran ships stretched before him in perfect formation. Carriers, destroyers, titans, all bristling with power, their engines burning bright. His officers reported calmly, "Dozens more worlds surrendered today. Resistance is collapsing across 3 sectors. He nodded slowly. The galaxy is ready to listen, and now we give them the choice. Messages went out across every channel, carried on beams of light and bursts of code. Humanity's voice reached every world, every throne, every council. Stand with us under Terran protection or stand against us and be erased. It was not a plea, not a negotiation, but a law written in iron. The first replies came quickly, frightened voices of governors who had seen the Armada with their own eyes. We submit, we will join, we will obey. Their words echoed across star systems, and soon others followed. Whole empires bent not because they wished to, but because they had no choice. Still, some tried to resist, their fleets rising in desperation. But each one was crushed within hours, their ships burned, their capitals left helpless, their leaders dragged before their people and forced to kneel. Resistance became nothing more than a story told by fools. The Council, broken and powerless, sent their final message, their voices trembling. We will accept Terran rule, we will disband our fleets, we will no longer resist. And with that, the galaxy's old order ended. On Earth, the news spread like fire. People filled the streets, cheering, waving flags. For the first time in history, humanity had not just defended itself, but risen to the highest throne of the stars. Nations that once argued now stood as one. Their voices joined in pride. We are Terran, and the galaxy bows to us. On alien worlds, the reaction was different. Some wept in fear, some cursed their leaders, but most simply bowed their heads because they knew resistance was pointless. Better to survive under Terran rule than die under Terran fire. The Armada did not withdraw. It did not vanish after victory. It remained orbiting alien capitals, its dreadnoughts hovering like mountains of steel, reminders of who now held power. The sight alone was enough to keep whole civilizations quiet. On the bridge of the Eternal Resolve, the commander spoke softly, his voice carrying the weight of destiny. They called us weak, they called us children, but now they kneel. Now they obey. This is the peace they denied us, the peace we forged in fire. His officers saluted. The fleet drifted onward, spreading its shadow further. The galaxy's map was redrawn, not by councils, not by debates, but by Terran steel. Earth was no longer a distant world on the edge of space. It was the heart of a new order, an order forged in silence, revealed in thunder and sealed in fear. In the years to come, children across the stars would learn the story, how the galaxy once mocked humanity, how the Council laughed, and how those laughs turned to screams when the Armada rose. And above all, they would learn the lesson carved into every world, every fleet, every throne. Diplomacy ended, and when words failed, humanity's fleet made the stars themselves tremble, and the galaxy would never forget it.